Hello students, let us discuss the next part of the lesson. National movement, the last phase 1919-1947. So already you know that Mahatma Gandhi was followed the non-violence method. So Mahatma Gandhi was against violent movements. So at the time of non-cooperation movement, the people were revolted harshly against the Britishers. So they burnt the offices and telephone and post offices. So because of this violence, the Mahatma Gandhi abruptly called off the non-cooperation movement when in February 1922 a crowd of peasants set fire to police station in Chauri Chaura. So in that incident, so 22 policemen were killed on that day. So here peasants were reacted violently against the police. So the peasants were provoked because the police had fired on their peaceful demonstration. So in the occasion of non-cooperation movement, so the peasants were conducting peaceful demonstration on the streets. So unfortunately the police was provoked these people by firing. So people also, the peasants also reacted aggressively and set fire to police station. So then in that incident 22 policemen were killed. So after seeing the violence, the Mahatma Gandhi called off the non-cooperation movement. So when non-cooperation movement was over or stopped, so the leaders of Congress forced the Congress to spread in the rural areas also. So other leaders such as C.R. Das and Motilal Nehru so argued that the party should fight elections to the councils and enter them in order to influence government policies. So other leaders also argued with the other leaders so about the importance of entering into the elections. So if you elected, we can influence the government policies. So through some people started spread these ideas, nationalist ideas and Gandhian ideas in the villages. Okay, they got base in the villages also. So this proved to be very useful in launching the civil disobedience movement in 1930. What is the meaning of civil disobedience? So here those were not follow the rules which are implemented by the Britishers. That is the meaning of civil disobedience. So two important developments of this mid-1920s were the formation of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh (RSS), so the Hindu organization, and the Communist Party of India. So these both are different, having different ideology. So those were emerged in 1920. So they have different ideas about the kind of country India should be. Okay. So RSS thought about the India should support the Hindus, but the communists want to introduce the socialistic governments in our country. So the revolutionary nationalist Bhagat Singh too was active in this period. So Bhagat Singh belongs to Punjab. So and he was a revolutionary nationalist. So civil disobedience movement and salt satyagraha in 1932. So Indian National Congress met at Lahore in 1929. In the 1922 Congress meeting, they announced the non-cooperation movement. But in 1929, the Congress met under the leadership of Jawaharlal Nehru. In this session, Congress declared that the attempt of Purna Swaraj was its ultimate goal, and it resolved to launch the civil disobedience movement to achieve Purna Swaraj. Purna Swaraj means full freedom. So in that 1929 Congress meet, so they declared they are going to fight for Purna Swaraj. So to achieve that, they launched the civil disobedience movement in India. So the leftist means Communist Party people, CPM and CPI. So within Congress took lead this time, giving a national goal and program. The Congress Working Committee decided with enthusiasm that 26th January should be observed as the day of Purna Swaraj. So that's why 26th January was having a more importance. So to keep up that importance, so we are celebrating Republic Day on 26th January. Actually, our constitution was accepted by our leaders in November 26th, 1949, but we have waited till 26th January 1950, and the constitution came into force from that day. That's why we are celebrating 26th January as Republic Day. So why? Because so on that day in 1929, 26th January, we announced Purna Swaraj. Okay, we celebrated Purna Swaraj Day. On March 12th, 1930, Mahatma Gandhi decided to break the government salt laws by manufacturing salt at Dundee. So why? Because so at the time Britishers imposed more taxes on salt. So in return, the Mahatma Gandhi decided to break the laws, salt laws. So by manufacturing salt at Dundee, a small village on the Gujarat sea coast. So there you want to manufacture the salt. So the next morning, Gandhi and his 78 companions or followers began the 375 kilometers trek. Okay, so from Sabarmati Ashramam to Dundee. So Sabarmati Ashram is a village of Ahmedabad in Gujarat. So Dundee also the small village on the Gujarat sea coast. The difference between the distance between Sabarmati and Dundee is 375 kilometers. So Gandhiji and his 78 followers started Padayatra. So this march was completed in 24 days. It took to complete that 24 days. Day after day, newspapers reported his progress, his speeches, and the impact on the people. So all the newspaper covered this news and progress day by day. So by that people are knowing the information and also influenced. So hundreds of village officials on his route resigned their jobs. On 6th April 1930, Gandhi reached Dundee handful of salt and broke the salt law as a symbol of the Indian people's refusal to live under the British made laws and therefore under the British rule. So like that Gandhiji started Uppu Satyagraha or Salt Satyagraha at that time. So a wave of enthusiasm swept the country. Salt laws were broken at so many places, and even women also participated in the civil disobedience movement. In Delhi alone, 1600 women were imprisoned. This movement was not confined to the Salt Satyagraha alone. Foreign cloth shops and liquor shops were picketed and burned. So, hand spinning was taken up as movement. British schools, colleges and services were boycotted. The people joined in this movement in large number. So the government replied with ruthless repression, so lathi charges and firing on unarmed crowds of men and women to suppress the movement. So the British government replied very harshly. Over 90,000 satyagrahis, including Gandhi and other Congress leaders, were imprisoned. So 110 persons were killed and over 300 wounded in police firing. So like that. So the brutally the government tried to suppress that movement. Restrictions were imposed on press. The British attempt to divide the Hindus by winning over the Muslims, Jamindars and other minorities to its side. So to divide the Indian people, so they have given more importance to some other minority people, either Jamindars and Muslims. So but the leaders try to spread the unity in the people. So to unite the people, they wore Qaddar. So removal of untouchability to bring social change in the society. In response to the call of Gandhi, a number of women broke parda and participated in the movement. So the combined struggles of the Indian people bore fruit when the Government of India Act of 1935 was passed. So because of after long struggle, the British government introduced Government of India Act in 1935, and they conducted provisional elections in 1937 in India. In that elections, the Congress was formed. Government in 7 out of 11 provinces. Here provinces means states. At the time, 550 provinces are there, but the British government conducted only elections in 7 provinces, and very few people got the voting rights in that elections. So in that elections, in 7 provinces, the Congress government Congress government was formed in September 1939. After 2 years, so these elected people were resigned at the time of Second World War. So at the time of Second World War, the British authorities expected support from the Congress leaders and India. In return, Congress leaders wanted that India be granted independence after the war, but the British refused that demand. So the Congress ministers resigned in protest. So after the 2 years only, they resigned. Next, Quit India Movement, 1942, Do or Die. So that slogan was given by Mahatma Gandhi. So already we discussed Britain expected support from India in the Second World War. So in return, Congress demanded full freedom to India, but British government was not in mood to accept this demand. So Congress Working Committee met on 8th August 1942 at Bombay and passed a resolution stating clearly that British rule in India must end immediately. So that is called Quit India Movement. So the evening after the Quit India resolution was passed, Mahatma Gandhi addressed these memorable words to the Indian people. So every one of you should from this moment onwards consider yourself a free man or woman and act as if you are free. I am not going to be satisfied with anything short of complete freedom. We shall do or die. We shall either free India or die in the attempt. So like that, very strongly the Mahatma Gandhi decided and said to the people, so we should achieve this Purna Swaraj, or we should die to achieve the Purna Swaraj. So like that, do or die slogan was given by Mahatma Gandhi. In the early hours of August 9th, so after declaration of Quit India Movement, so next day in 1942, the government arrested most of the Congress leaders like Gandhi, Patel, Nehru, Maulana Azad, Acharya Kripalani, Rajendra Prasad and others. So the people also protest with hartal strikes, processions all over the country. Unfortunately, the movement was turned violently. The working class in the factories boycotted the work and students attacked the police stations, post offices, railway stations and other public places. They cut off telegraph and telephone wires and railway lines. They towed the railway lines. They burnt government buildings, vehicles, military vehicles, railway carriages. So in that moments, the Madras and Bombay were the most affected in this respect. So the British authority disappeared in parts of Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Odisha, West Bengal, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, in these states. So the Britishers disappeared, went back to their headquarters. So in Manipur, people set up parallel government during 1940 to 44. As a result of this movement, 10 lakh pounds worth of property was destroyed. So the people attacked on the government vehicles, government offices. So some are burnt. So like that, 30 police personnel and 10 army men lost their lives in that battle. Many people were killed. Thousands were arrested in the government suppression. By the end of the 1943, over 90,000 people were arrested. 90,000 people were arrested and around 1,000 killed in police firings. In many areas, orders were given to machine gun crowds from aeroplanes. The rebellion, however, ultimately brought the British Raj to its knees. Finally, we achieved some result. Okay, so World War II between 1939 and 1945. So at the time of World War II, so Germany led by Hitler and his Nazi party wanted to gain control over the whole world, and and declared war on Britain, France, USSR, and other countries. So USA joined on the side of England. So France and USSR called allied countries. So one side is Germany, so other side was Britain, France, USSR. So Germany was supported by Japan and Italy. So one of the worst wars in human history broke out in 1939 and lasted till 1945. That was called the Second World War, when USSR armies captured Berlin and the USA dropped atom bombs over Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan. Then the Second World War was ended. So at the time, most people who cherished the values of democracy and freedom opposed Hitler and supported the Allied countries. Dear Allied countries means England, France and USSR. So later USA also joined with them. So in this war, however, in India it created a dilemma, as Indians were at the same time fighting the British. So on behalf of the British, so India was also participating